Yeah. Because I found myself thinking that I was better than what I was. I felt like I deserved all these accolades. I deserved this person's things. I'm on, scrolling on Instagram. Man, I should be better than this person. I should be ranked higher than this person. Oh, he's this, he's that. He got more offers than me. He got that more, and God was like, it's not your time yet, So I found myself like just in the midst of it all, and I would get angry at myself. I would get depressed at myself, and like I would be like, man, when is it all gonna happen for me?
Welcome world, welcome family to another episode of the EL2A Podcast. I'm your host, James Gilmore, and to the right of me, man, we got this very, very special guest, and we got a future five-star. We got a young legend in the making. We got Mr. James Bethea with us today. How you feeling today, bro?
Feeling good. Thanks for the opportunity to be on your show.
I appreciate you, man. And so one thing about it, you're a younger guy. I don't even know, you're not the youngest because we had some of our Cut Different boys on it. But I love talking to the youth. That's why we do what we do with Cut Different. I think I know there's greatness in all of our youth, right? There's just some discover it earlier than others, but I think our goal, my goal in life, or the goal for everyone, should be to pour into the youth. So that's why I reached out to you, right? I saw you on the internet and you were different, right? You were cut different. You were different the way you showed up, and that's what got you here, right? It ain't nothing I did. It's what you did that got you in the chair. So I appreciate you for being who you are, and I respect you. And I told you that before, even off the camera. I respect what you're doing. I want you to keep it going. But before we get into it, man, what I want y'all to do is like, subscribe, and comment. And it's free 99. It costs you nothing. Like, subscribe, and comment to show love. Also, what you want to do is show some love through the podcast. If anything is said that touches you, comment. Share the podcast with somebody else so they can be able to hear from the great young man himself. And Cut Different Academy coming soon. What's up, EL2A family, man? Come invest in the futures that are going to change the world. What you see here right now, man, we are reimagining education, right? We are giving these young boys and showing them who they are and where they're going. We're creating a school-to-career pipeline, and it's happening right here on this property, man. So let's go, EL2A fam. We're going to have a QR code that pops up. You scan that code, all right? And it's going to take you and tell you everything you need to know to come help us invest in the futures that's going to change the world. Let's go. Yeah. James, one thing I want to get right into it. So one thing that I like to say, so I believe there's two questions in life that you have to answer, right? Yes, who am I and where am I going? So who am I? That's like that changes everything. When you understand who you are, that changes like your standards. Your standards change, your confidence rises when you know where you're going. That's the direction. For you, everybody sees it, right? Everybody sees every other week. Thank you for the offer from this. Thank you for the offer from this, right? You can get drowned in that, right? And you can become who you are, right? I'm a football player. And that's even who I went. Like when I was your age, I was a student athlete. Somebody said who you are, I said I'm a football player. That's not who we are. That's what we did. Sure. So I want to hear from the horse's mouth, man. Who is James Bethea outside of football?
James Bethea is a follower of Christ, first of all. Sometimes, like you said, you may find yourself getting caught up in the offers or the different things when it comes from like hearing it from other people other than your parents, then your inside circle. You may hear like you're good at this, you're good at that, and that might be who you think you are. But the more I pour my eyes and pour my soul into my Bible and into my readings, I find like find me humbling myself and figuring out that I'm not just a football player. I'm not just this cool guy that everybody thinks I am. I'm really a follower of Christ, and I love the people. I love being around people. I love pouring myself back into other people so that people can pour into me. That's how it works.
That's beautiful, man. I have a saying that's called daily deposits, right? Yeah. And this is that same thing. It's making small, intentional actions every day to pour into yourself or to pour in somebody else. So that's what you're doing every day, daily deposits. But the next question I want to know, man, how did you get here, right? So the thing about it, right? What everybody sees, and they see, again, the offers and all that, that's what everybody wants. Like, I was a student after, right? I had offers and stuff when I came out, maybe like 18 some offers or whatever. And everybody wants that. When we grow up as kids, everybody say, I'm going to the league, I'm going to the NFL. But as you start getting older, people start falling off. Yeah. Some people start going to jail. Some people start getting in trouble. Some people life starts happening, but some people make it through the cracks. And you're one of those people that gets to this position now to where you're getting to this point to where it's like, dang, I got all these offers, but how did you get here? Like what goes behind you being able to be at this point?
Yeah, so with that, it's really just figuring out like we said, who I am as a person. So coming into high school, I was just this, like, I'm hearing from people outside of my family, or you're gonna be great when you get to high school. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. So I'm thinking when I get to high school, oh, I'm gonna be this big time kid that's gonna start on varsity as a freshman, do this and do that. And reality hit when I got to high school. People started getting in my ear, trying to influence me to do different things, trying to influence me to, oh, go to this party, go do this with this person. And, I'm a young kid at this point, and there's older kids talking to me at this point, and I'm just like, man, I really got to figure out who I am, because it's like sometimes I would find myself like, man, I got to change, and the other time I'm like, dang, is this who I am? Like, I'm going to follow this crowd, follow this person. I had to figure out that I'm a true leader at heart,
Yeah.
I had to figure out that I'm not just somebody who wants to be in Ocala, somebody that wants to be like sitting at home and saying, oh, I could have been this person,
Mm-hmm.
I had to really get in my teachings and get in my lessons. I really found Christ at a young age, and that was like a really big factor of how I portray myself and how I like prove myself to the world that like I am this leader, I am this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped me, with being humble, staying humble outside of football, like knowing that I gotta work each and every day, knowing that I gotta put in the grind, put in the blood, sweat, and tears so that I can be great and be successful. Also knowing that not to use my platform as a form of, trying to get self-respect or trying to get recognition, but to uplift Christ and uplift my religion, uplift like Jesus, letting everybody know that he is the reason why I am who I am today.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. So when I was a kid, I obviously, when things happen, I always give glory to God, but I always give glory to my parents as well.
Yeah.
So when I talk about how did you get here, there's a lot of things that I can relate to me being who I am today, to obviously to God, but to my parents as well. My parents was a key part to that, right? So when I think about being a product of teenage parents, when I think about sacrifice and somebody taking you to all these practices, somebody being there for you, making sure that you got food on your table, got all these different things to make sure that you don't have to worry about those things, and you can go play football and not have to worry about it, food not going to be, because that's the struggle. Some people, right? Some people have that struggle. When it comes to your upbringing, your household, who is that person for you?
It's really my mom and my sisters. They really kept me grounded. Sometimes I may come home and think I'm just, the man. Even when I was younger, I always felt like I had to be that leader, had to be that role model for everybody. And it like really let me know, like, we got it. You go be you. You go be who you need to be in this world. And that really helped me and like put me at peace with myself so that I can really like thrive and grow, in this world. So my mom, she really was like my backbone. She really mentors me. She keeps me grounded through everything. So when I'm going through sports and everything, like at first she didn't really want me to play football because, she obviously want to keep her only boy safe. She want to keep everybody, grounded, want to keep everybody in the house and keep me sheltered and protected. And, it really took me to get older and for me to really mature, for her to, really say, I'm going to let him go and let him be who he is, because she sees that I'm a mature young man and she made me out to be this way, So, and she really kept us in the church, kept us close. Because, sometimes you find yourself getting distant away from your family, and she really like kept us close and let us know that me and my sisters are all that we have,
Nah, that's fine. Man, I just said that, man. That's one thing. Even my relationships I have with my brother, man, that's what my parents did, right? My mom used to always say, if we leave for the day, all y'all got is each other, right? And that helped us grow. So that's a great thing, man. So always stay, man. And I even now, bro, when I see people beefing with their siblings and stuff, like what's that about? I can't even like fathom or understand like how like this supposed to be the closest person to you, man. So that's a beautiful thing to have. And one thing I'm gonna think about as well, so the pressure of this all, right? So a lot of people don't understand the pressure, right? It's cool to have offers, right? That is it, but it also pressure that comes with this stuff, right? As well. Kind of talk to me about that. Like what pressure that comes with all this?
So the pressure of it all is really just maintaining and staying on your grind. It's really hard to continue to do the things after everybody else gave you all the accolades and giving you everything. You sometimes you sit there and you wonder like, what more can I do, when there's a lot more that can be done. It's a lot more accolades that could be done. There's a lot more things you could do to upbring yourself and growth. Maybe if it's outside of football, you know, things that could make you a better person off the field that may like open up different opportunities for you after football, because football is not gonna, you know, always be there when you leave college or high school even. So, you know, you really have to find who you are before like you even make a decision on anything, make a commitment to anything. You really just have to figure out, is this what I want to do? Is this what I want to do for the next 30 years of my life? Is this where I want to be the next 30 years of my life? Is this type of person I want to be, first of all? Because you never know, like sometimes when you're younger, you may make a decision that when you get older, you regret, you know. You have to figure out first, is this what I want to do? Is this what I want to be in? And I feel like God really led me to that, because, you know, sometimes it got hard through high school. I found myself like wanting to quit, like found myself like in a deep hole at one point, and it was really hard for me to continue to play football. And I feel like that was nothing but the devil just trying to keep me back, you know, trying to stop me from doing what I was called to do. And, you know, my mom, you know, God spoke through her. God spoke through my different mentors. God spoke through my different coaches and continued to push me and continue to allow me to, you know, be the person that I am today.
Yeah, man, you got to talk to me about that. So if you think about it, a person like yourself at this level, somebody may not never knew that at one point in time, you telling me you wanted to not play football and you was in a deep hole. So what can make a person like James Bethea be in a spot to where he doesn't want to play this game that you show that you love, and what can put you in a deep hole?
Really just the pressure of like being good, the pressure of winning, you know. Everybody wants to win in life and everybody wants to be this big person, but, you know, instead of leaning on your own understandings, like I found myself like leaning on, I want to do this, I want to do that, you know, in my life. And God was pulling me away and telling me, you got to go do this. I need you to do this for me right now. I need you to do this. And I'm like, no, you know, and it's kind of God, you know, he brings you back down to where he needs you to be. And that's just, you know, it kind of put me at ease and put me at peace, because I found myself thinking that I was better than what I was. I felt like I deserved all these accolades. I deserved this person's things. I'm on, you know, scrolling on Instagram. Man, I should be better than this person. I should be ranked higher than this person. Oh, he's this, he's that. He got more offers than me. He got that more, you know. And God was like, it's not your time yet, you know. And so I found myself like just in the midst of it all, and I would get angry at myself. I would get depressed at myself, and like just I would be like, man, when is it all gonna happen for me? That's really like what kept me down. And, you know, God, he allowed me to just sit there and like with reading the Bible and with reading different lessons and with talking to different people, that allowed me to like realize like, I know when my time is coming, you know, God knows when my time is coming. So I just have to sit here and be patient. And he showed me like, the more patient you are with me, the more faith you have in me, you know, he'll put you in better positions.
Well, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
That waiting process, that's the hard part. But bro, you light years ahead. I think about it back to my journey, right? So I was raised in the church, right? I have great grandparents. Like, it's a long history of just church going folks, praying people, right? And even my father's a pastor, right? So for a long period of my time, I would lean into my father's faith, right? If somebody would ask me, well, I'm showing my dad's a pastor, as if that would validate me, as if that could get me into heaven, right? And what you're doing right now is manifesting the word of God, and through your own mouth, right? It took me a while to do that, right? Because it wasn't a cool thing to do. It's not that I was scared, or is it just, I'm not just gonna do it. If you ask me, I'd tell you, but I'm not just gonna openly just say, hey, bro, I love God. You know what I mean? I'd rather say some other cool stuff that's gonna get me attention. And it took me to a tough spot, bro. It took me to a tough spot in my life. I was in college. I'll never forget it. I'm probably at this time 20-some years old, but I had to go to God for myself, right? When I just told you, my dad, my mom, nobody was there. I had to get down on my knees for myself and tell God I need him. That was the moment to where it changed for me. I'm even thinking to now, right? We live in a social media age. We got kids showing up as these young tough guys. Everybody want to be like NBA young boy. But you're up here manifesting your faith, and you're also, like your social media says, you're the official gospel sharing page of James Bethea. Like, bro, what leads that? Like, what makes you show up like that? You get what I'm saying?
It's really just motivation from my learnings, you know, from my teachings. You know, the more I lean into God, the more I lean into, you know, my learnings, the more I lean into my Bible, you know, it brings a sense of happiness to me, no matter what's going on in my life. Like, I may be in the deepest, darkest hole, but like God, He's allowed me to like lean towards different things than I did. Like when I was like going into high school, like I would lean to girls, I would lean to different homeboys, I would lead to going to parties, going out with this person, going out with that person, you know, to satisfy my needs instead of getting on my knees asking God, like, what do I do?
For sure.
You know, instead of, you know, just sometimes even just turning on a sermon on my TV and just listening to it, like to go to sleep or something like that. Like, and I wake up in the morning and I'll be a new person. Like, even if I'm just listening to gospel music, you know, it brings a sense of, you know, peace and happiness in my heart. So I want other people to experience that as well. You know, people, I see a lot of like young men like on my Instagram feed, and like they may even be like 4 stars, 5 stars, but they're going down the wrong direction. You know, they're going into places where like it may not hurt them now, but when they get older, they may fall into a deep, dark hole, and then they may go and do this and do that may hurt them and maybe potentially even killing them, you know? And I just want to save as many lives as I can, you know. You know, God put me on this earth for a reason, and that's to be His child. That's to spread the word of God and spread His sermons, you know.
Draw, man. You put something on your page, and I screenshotted it because I knew you were coming on, and it just touched me that you did it. There was a long caption. It was the New Year thing. You put a whole bunch of stuff on there, but something that that stuck out to me. It says, I place this new year in your hands, right? You were telling God, I place this new year in your hands, and that was very powerful. But another thing you said, help me walk boldly in my purpose, right? Help me walk boldly in my purpose. At your age, I didn't know my purpose, right? I thought football was my purpose. I thought I was supposed to go to the NFL, and that's why God put me on this earth. What's your purpose, right?
My purpose is just to be His child. You know, on this earth, you find it hard with different things, like such as girls, money. You know, you find yourself getting caught up in all of these small things that may turn into bigger things down the road. And you know, my purpose is just to teach other people that that's not the way to go. You know, the way to go is just to be you and to continue to live your life through Christ. You know, because I wasn't always the person that I was. You know, it was hard growing up as the only boy. You know, I'm in the house by myself. I don't really have my dad. You know, my dad went out to the army. I'm young. I'm like, man, I need my dad. You know, I found myself thinking like, man, if I wouldn't do this if I had my dad. I wouldn't do this if I had my dad. Like, it was different thoughts like that. But like, at the end of the day, it was just Christ putting me in a position to need Him, you know? And it was just like a moment for me where it all just clicked. I remember it was going into my sophomore year, coming out of my 9th grade year. It was that summer, you know, I wasn't really getting the accolades or the recognition that I thought I should have, you know, coming out of that year. And like, it was just one day I just broke down. Like, I just broke down crying, and then like I just asked God, like, what do I do? You know, and then like I just woke up the next morning, and like it was just like a switch clicked in my brain. And you know, I never thought that was actually true. You know, people obviously say like, you know, Christ works overnight, God works overnight, things like that. And I'm just like, man, who is God? You know, I didn't really know who God was, you know, until I leaned into Him and I learned who He was for my own self, you know, and that really pushed me to continue to thrive and to be a better person in this world. And so that's what my purpose is. My purpose is just to live through Him. No matter if football is the way to go, you know, I allow Him to, you know, lead my life. You know, I don't speak for myself. I don't speak just, you know, for self-recognition. I speak for Him. You know, I was speaking what He puts through my heart, you know? So
being a vessel, bro, that's powerful. Even work we do, I say it all the time, bro, I'm just a vessel. Even when we started Cut Different, I told God, you take the wheel, right? You take the wheel, you lead my life, man. This is where it got. You get what I'm saying? So ever since then, I was like, ever since I said that, everything been going good. So God, we locked in. You know what I mean? So one thing for you that caught my attention, and you got to understand what I do here at Cut Different. We work with young men, right? We work with young men, and a lot of them have absent fathers, right? And that affects them in certain different ways. You did mention that, and you mentioned a couple other things, like maybe you wouldn't have done this, you would have done that if you would have had your father. And I want to highlight this, or I want to get just ask you this for two reasons. So one, to highlight your mom for what she's done to be able to get you to this point, right? Kudos to her. And for two, to also show, because there's some young men, right, that I deal with on day to day, they think because of their father, like they can't be successful.
Yeah.
Right? They like that's their thing. They're saying, okay, because my dad, that's why I'm out here in the streets.
Yeah.
Because my dad, that's why or you could be a James Bethea. You get what I'm saying? So I want you to kind of shed light on because you did say, you mentioned a couple things that you said you wish, like, if you would have had your dad, what happened, but how did that truly affect you, not having your dad in your life?
Not having my dad, it really was just the absence of him not being there, you know, like not teaching me how to do the basic needs, the basic men, you know, like just growing up, I felt like I was like more emotional than I should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe because I was around all girls, you know, growing up. But like it came to a point where as I got older, I realized that I'm my own man. You know, God made me in his image and not just of my dad or my mom, you know. I have to live for myself because one day, you know, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be me just like now. Yeah. You know, I got to grow up and be me. Mm-hmm. So God, I feel like put in my heart that he is my father. You know, he is my true father. And my dad not being there, I understand like it wasn't on purpose, you know, it was a thing like that. And like now me and my dad, we have a good relationship, but it was just like a time in my life where like I was like, should I really accept my dad for, you know, coming back and, you know, wanting to be in my life and things like that, where I haven't heard from him in years. I haven't even saw a picture of my dad in years. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just hard, you know, trying to accept him back in my life. But God was like, this is what you needed. Yeah. You know, this is who you needed. So I need you to open up your heart and be open to him. Like, let him know who you are. But at the same time, I had to be confident in who I was. Mm-hmm. Because it would be sometimes where like I would be shunned because of he doesn't know who I am, mm-hmm. you know, and it was just hard because it's like, man, like if you were here, you would have knew who your son was. You would have knew who I am. Yeah. And it was just hard, you know, just growing up and knowing like he doesn't really know who I am as a person. And like, but now we have a great relationship. We talk every day, you know, but it was just hard growing up and knowing that. And then like, just like I was telling you earlier, like going through it, like, man, if I had my dad, I would know how to do this. If I had my dad, I would be less emotional. I'll know how to control things better, you know. But, you know, God showed me like, you need me to do those things. You know, you don't need this world to learn how to be a person, you know. Yeah. You need me.
So I love that y'all mended that relationship too. I want to like that y'all. And a lot of people, when it comes to forgiveness, because there's something else we work with too. A lot of people, you have to understand forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in a relationship like that, for you to be able to move forward, you get what I'm saying? There's no reason, because we as you get older, you'll understand. And I don't know the dynamics of it, and it's not for us to get into that. Some things happen. Yeah. You just got to be grown to understand why they happen. You know what I mean? And so I'm proud, I'm glad y'all was able to fix that up. But side segment, there's something you said before where you talked about the young brothers that were maybe 4 or 5 stars, but they still showing up on social media, probably as some hood guys, or you know what I mean, whatever that is. So it made me think of the YN movement, right? We got the YN movement. I see it all on social media. So I have a perception of what that is, right? I'm a little older than you, but I have a perception. I want to hear it from you. Like, what is this? What is a YN?
Shoot, I feel like it's just somebody who's just going down the wrong path, you know. It may be upbringing, it may be, you know, household issues, you know, it may be just even you, you know, just being the person that you want to be. But I feel like it's just somebody who is going down the wrong path, somebody who's choosing a trend over, you know, being who they were called to be on this earth. You know, I feel like everybody has a calling from God, you know, regardless of who you are, what you've been through. I feel like you have a calling from God. But I feel like a YN is just somebody who just doesn't care necessarily.
Reckless out there. Well, when you think about because it could be a misconception as well. Like you say, they start attaching Nike Techs or something like that. So you put on the Nike Tech, now you actually a YN. Yeah. Do you feel like this? And then we had one of our boys say that to us before. He was like, man, I believe that there's so many misconceptions when it comes to young people that it leads you to I'm gonna just be who you think I am anyway. Yeah. Do you feel like it's a lot of misconceptions out there as well?
Yeah, I feel like it is. I feel like, you know, Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, you know, it perceives people to be people that they're not, you know. You know, they call it put on the face for Instagram or put on the face for Snapchat, and then you go home like it may be things such as depression, you know. People may be sad or don't get the attention that they may need, so they feel like they need to get it from their Instagram followers or from other people, or the respect that they need, so they feel like they need it from social media. And that's not okay, you know. You got to really find yourself and realize that the only respect that you need is self-respect and respect for, you know, your Lord and Savior. So I feel like that's really a big thing, you know, when it comes to that.
Yeah, I need your help. So, and I see the same things. And I think the same thing. Some of the athlete guys, and it starts even outside of college, high school, even the pro guys, right? If you get on some of the pro guys' social media, they taking it. It's like they want to be rappers or something. They taking the pictures, that look, the money, like chains, just the way they're and it teaches on, right? I ain't knocking nobody for how you get that, because these same guys could be men of faith. They just choosing not to display that, right? And for whatever reason. What would you say? So to a young person your age that is online, they're portraying these things, because we also know it could be, I'm just showing this or I'm actually doing this, right? And I think it's like you 1 foot, 1 in. That's how I perceive it. But what would you share? What would you say to, like, if you had a young brother that you was close to and that you could give some game to, what would you say to him about him showing up on social media like that?
For one, how would your parents like that? You know, how would your mom see you if she seen you on Instagram with guns or with money all everywhere or with big old, you know, like, how would your mom want you to see? Like, how would your mom see that? Would she feel like safe knowing that her son is posting this stuff? Would she feel like that her home is safe, you know, posting things like that? And for two, how much self-respect do you have for yourself? That's really what it mainly comes down to. Like, do you have self-respect? Like, do you want to be portrayed as this person? Do you want to be like a bad person, knowing that deep down in your heart you're really kind? You know, because that may be somebody's first time ever seeing you, like on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. Like, they see you with all these flashy guns or flashy big old chains or diamond grilled teeth, and they may portray you as a gangster, or they may portray you as this, and you're really this cool kid who, you know, have all these offers or have, you know, college, you know, going to college, you got 4.0 GPA, you know. And when you meet these people, then they already got this perception in their mind, like, man, is he a bad kid? Like, should I be scared, or should I? You don't want to portray yourself as like somebody you're not.
I feel you're a very motivated kid. That's what you look like. I see you working out. I see you, you know what I mean, doing the work when nobody else working. You look like you be working. But I'm gonna give you some more motivation if you do need it. Brandon Sorsby. I'm pretty sure that maybe rings a bell. The Cincinnati quarterback. He's now at Texas Tech. 1 year, $5 million. So a college athlete just signed a contract or whatever you call it for 1 year at $5 million. What does that do to you?
To be honest with you, it doesn't really do anything. You know, when I see all of this NIL and I see all of the big time names going for, you know, $5 million or $4 million to go to college, and it's like, dang, like there's no loyalty in it, you know? It takes away the love of the game for me. I feel like when it comes to how everybody moves with money, you know, instead of moving with their heart and their mind, you know, it really takes away like the love of it. You know, what do we play football for? Do we play, like, it feels like now we're just all playing for checks and smiles. That's it, you know? But for me personally, I play just because I love it, you know. It's the outlet, you know. It gives me a sense of joy. It gives me a sense of happiness, you know. Even if I don't make it to the NFL, you know, I'll be happy with my life. I'll be okay with the person I am, because football is in my life, you know. Money is in my life. I'll be okay with the person I am. So, yeah, it doesn't really move me when it comes to things like that.
So tell me, what is your overall, how do you feel about NIL?
I feel like it's a good and a bad thing, because, of course, with the older guys, you know, with everybody moving and different coaches moving and different things like that, you know, it's really messing up the college game. Is really like not really about loyalty anymore. Like, people aren't loyal to their teams how they were back then. You know, people not staying, like, roster spots are opening up everywhere. You know, people who are committed, they'll decommit from this school and go to that school. And, you know, it's kind of confusing, like, once you, like, get into it. Like you just got to really be into the world to understand.
Yeah.
But it's really confusing. But at the same time, it opens up a lot of opportunities for like young athletes like me or like these bigger names. And I feel like it puts like a certain type of grind and a certain type of hustle between like certain people who may not have that upbringing or may not have that financial situation that they want to put their mom in, So I feel like it's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah. So NIL, and this is just my personal opinion, NIL is name, image, and likeness, right?
Yeah.
I think anybody and everybody should get paid off my name. How can somebody else make money off my name and I can't? I played college football from 2012 to 2016. During that time, it wasn't nobody getting no money, right? But at that time, it was a lot of coaches making a lot of money, and they were doing the same thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
I went to Temple University. My coach, Steve Adagio. The reason I built a relationship with him, because at the time he was at University of Florida with Urban Myers.
Yeah.
But then he went to Temple, and so I chose to go up there with him.
Yeah.
He came down here to Florida, to Ocala, Florida, sat in my living room, talked to my mom, told me he was going to take care of me. I played with him for my freshman year. The off season of my freshman year, it hit ESPN. Steve Adagio is going to Boston College.
Yeah.
You think Steve Adagio cared what I thought?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Steve Adagio made a decision that was the best for him and his family, right?
Yeah.
And he chose to leave. Coach has been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
Same thing now. The playing field is kind of even out. I do believe that there has to be structure to it, right? It's too wild right now. It's all over the place, right? So kids are being able to, even like right now, how the young boys are playing for a national championship, but then the quarterback and coaches leave, and that's just crazy.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be able to happen.
Yeah.
But as far as somebody making money off their name, and the word you said was opportunity, right? That's all I'm talking about, creating opportunity. You got young boys being able to literally create opportunity for themselves, young boys that are coming from situations that are dire, right? Young boys are coming from situations where their families are like, they have to send all their, and at that time we're getting Pell Grants. They got to send all their Pell Grant back home. You only get like $2,500 a semester. You got to send that all back home. I seen that, right?
Yeah.
That was a real thing. So I'm up in school trying to be a student athlete, but I got to send all my money back home. Now what they're doing, they're creating opportunity for young cats to be able to send something and still have something for themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it, man. So, but I do think there should be structure to it. So for example, I have people that I went to college with right now that some of them, like I had 2 cats I went to since we graduated, like, or I don't even know if they graduated, but they went to prison, or they are like on some YN stuff, right? There's nobody that should touch a college university campus and they have to resort to something like that.
Yeah.
Everybody should be okay after they leave. I don't came here to the university, blood, sweat, and tears for y'all. I don't spend time here, y'all. There should be something of fun or something that makes them straight, right? And that's all I think. But I do agree with what you said. But one thing I do want to get your opinion: what should NIL money go to? Like in your opinion, what do you feel? How do you feel college athletes should use their NIL money?
First of all, I feel like you should just take care of your family. Obviously put it into savings because you never know what may happen after life. Never know what may happen after like college life. So I feel like people should put it into savings, put it into different investments, start a business up, start like clothing brands or start up like different marketing, like different things like that. I feel like you should put your money into. I feel like you should obviously put it into your mom. She's the one who, got you here, got you to this opportunity, put it into your parents, your siblings, and obviously taking care of yourself.
Yeah, that's fine. Definitely gotta make sure you know what to do with that cheese, because it'll be gone, boy. If you don't take care of it, it'll be out of here. But so this is $1 million question. Everybody want to know it. So why the Indiana Hoosiers? Is it Hoosiers, whatever? Hoosiers. Why the Indiana Hoosiers?
First of all, it was just really the push they made after the coaching changes at Auburn, because I was probably a couple days away from coming to Auburn, and the coaches change happened and different situations lined up, and they really made a really good push for me, and it just feels like home there. Even me not even being there yet, not even getting on campus and seeing the coaches, like they call me every day. My birthday, they got the whole team in the back. Happy birthday. They really showing me that's home. And they're keeping it real with me. It's hard, for other coaches to keep it real with you in this world. They may guarantee you this or guarantee you that, but you get there and they get you in, and then they just don't care about you anymore. So you got to really find some people that's really genuine, people who really care about, the direction you're going. And, regardless of me committing to Indiana or not, they really cared about the person I was off the field. more than on the field. So that's something I really look for. You know, it was the same thing with Auburn. You know, Coach Davis that was there, he was a really good, you know, mentor for me and a really good person. You know, he was really God-driven and God-led. And, you know, the receiving room there, they had like sermons they would give and stuff. And like, he made sure like everybody in that receiving room knew who God was, regardless if you know, cared or not. You know, he really made sure that everybody knew who it was. So that was what almost led me to committing to Auburn. So, but, you know, it was just really the push. You know, they really made a great push for me after, you know, kept it real with me and my family, made sure that we were okay. You know, they're even still now with all the transfer portal stuff going on, they're still keeping me in the loop and not just let me go, you know, like just now that I'm committed, they just don't care. Because a lot of coaches, they'll do that. They'll just get this guy committed and he's just on the roster now. You know, but now they're like keeping me in the loop, like make sure like, hey, you know, this guy's coming in, you know, this guy's coming in. And, you know, it allows me to prepare myself, you know, for that opportunity. So when I get there, I'm not just like, dang, they bought this guy and they bought this guy and they bought this guy. And you just falling deeper and deeper on the depth chart, you know. You gotta make sure what you're going into is something you want to go into. You know.
So what the check boxes, right? So before committing, I'm pretty sure you had like, all right, they gotta have this. What was that for you before committing? What questions you had to ask yourself before committing?
First, it was really like the degrees, like make sure that I can go there and do what I want to do. You know, I want to get a degree in business, something in the business aspect, and find something with physical science there. So because after I want to build my life. And also it was like somewhere like, is this somewhere where I want to build my life at if I had to stay here? You know, if I had to be here after college, is this somewhere where I want to be at? You know, and obviously, you know, me being a Florida kid, experiencing snow for the first time, and it's like, man, like this is cool, you know. And like the fan base is really great. You know, once I committed, like it was just like everybody like make sure I'm okay. Like people sending me stuff, people sending me like different letters. People said like, it's like, man, like is this really what it's about? Like, you know, the fan base like was better than ever. You know, it wasn't just felt like, oh, he's just another guy that's committed. You know, everybody like I felt like family. You know.
Now, how you feel about that? So that's one of the best decisions I've made to leave to go to home. So I left here, never been further than Georgia, and then I went way up to Philadelphia, right? So when I went up there, it changed my life, right? Because exposure, I understood that the world's bigger than where I came from. What, if any, concerns do you have, or do you have any concerns about you leaving and going to another state?
Really, it's just me living on my own. You know, every kid will be like that once they go to college. Like they don't want to, you know, leave mom behind or, you know, leave your family behind. But, you know, I realized like that's life. You know, one day you got to end up being on your own and being the man that God is calling you to be. So I'm ready for it. You know, it's giving me nerves sometimes, but, you know, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see what God has for my life, you know, and what he has planned for me. Hopefully it's, you know, what I want, but if it's not, then, you know, we live.
I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to get you the answer. The question is, what's your why? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking you this question. What you're walking into, it's a game that you love, but it quickly turns into a business. And I experienced this, right? So I went through college and I played Little League. I mean, I loved the game of football. High school, I loved the game of football. When I got to college, they made me hate the game of football because I didn't understand that it was a business until I got there. What you guys are walking into, you understand it because they get money involved. There's a lot of stuff going on, but you don't really understand it till you're in it. Right? Because the love that they're showing you now, when you get on that campus,
it's different.
It's different, especially if you don't perform. Right? Especially if you don't show up how they expect you to show up. And you may have a bad day. You may get hurt. These things are happening, God forbid, but these things can happen. And it quickly turns into a business and you quickly turn into a number, right? In the midst of all that, when that happens, God forbid, because we want you to go out there and take off and do your thing, you have to fall back on what's your why. Because what's your why is what's going to keep you waking up when that alarm clock ringing at 4 o'clock. And you got to go out there in that snow. You talk about snow now until you got to go put some sleds in the snow. And you got to go do mat drills in the snow. All this stuff on there, bro. And the why, right? My why always drove me, right? I always thought back to my parents. I always thought back to my brothers. I always think back to my homeboy fella. He died when I was in my senior year. I used to always think about to these moments that push me to keep going.
Yeah.
You have to understand your why, and that's going to keep you going. So what's your why?
Well, really my why is my mom. First of all, you know, she just seeing her like put blood, sweat, and tears, you know, sometimes she may even go to sleep hungry, you know, just to make sure we're okay, to make sure, you know, we're fed. You know, she may give me her last dime just to make sure I'm okay, to make sure I can go do this and go do that. You know, it really just like put that fire and drive in me. Even now, like it puts that fire and drive in me to continue to keep working, continue to keep being the person that I am. And also just God, you know, he wants me to prove he wants me to like prove that I live through him, you know, because sometimes people may go like, because I mean, I'm not perfect, you know, I make mistakes, and people, they may go through, like, go on my Instagram and see I'm posting God, and then like I'm, you know, out talking with them about something, and then they'll be like, man, you're not this person, you're not God, you know, you don't follow God.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it's just like, man, people make mistakes, you know, and you know, as the days go by, you know, I find myself getting more and more like God. So, you know, it's really just his calling. You know, I feel like I was destined to do this. I was destined to be this person. I was destined to, you know, lift him up on the highest pedestal, you know, and I feel like I have that coming for me, you know.
Yeah.
Shoot, committed to the #1 team in the nation right now. You know, they have a chance to, you know, make multiple runs, and I feel like I can go there and be a guy that can be a part of this. And, you know those guys that's on TV all the time, and like they ask them what's their why, you know. That's gonna be me one day. I feel like, you know, lifting God up to the highest pedestal that he can be lifted up, you know. And shoot, even just being the person that I'm called to be, you know, I feel like this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, give yourself grace. I'm gonna give you this word, grace, right?
Yeah.
Give yourself grace, because one thing you're gonna get that, right? Especially when you're putting yourself out there as this person, right? It does a couple things to you. It's cool because it's accountable, right? Now I have to be accountable for who I'm putting out there. Now I have to be this person. But two, it also gets you criticism, because anytime somebody perceives you as doing something that's outside of godly, they're gonna try to call you out on it, right?
Yeah.
And but you have to give yourself grace, right? Because you're a human, right? Nobody's perfect. We're striving, right? We're striving to be that. And even for myself, and I seen this all the time with my dad being a pastor, right? They tried to make it seem as if he wasn't human, right? He isn't God. He's just somebody that God appointed to do this calling, right? So God has appointed you, right, to point people, but to draw all men to him, right? So yes, you're going to make mistakes, right? Don't ever think you ain't going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, and know it. You may cuss, whatever. You get what I'm saying? Don't be the person that think that you fall from the grace of God because you said a cuss word or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The goal is to always understand that we are striving, right? We're striving to be great. So even what you're doing right now, like I said, trying to draw people closer to him, man, God understands your heart. God will always, man, like I say, those people who try to make you, those are the ones that, okay, bro, I see what you're trying, just this, you know, or whatever, and keep going on your journey, man. You're doing the right thing. But one thing I do want to do, I want to point to your senior year, man. Senior years are vitally important. So I want to know for yourself, what is your main focus approaching on your senior year?
Really just keeping the main thing, you know, just continuing to be, I feel like this year, I feel like I have to be a better teammate, you know, because last year I found myself, you know, like really like worried about me making it, you know, and now that everything is worked out, you know, the way that God has wanted it, you know, I just have to continue to like grow, you know, continue to grow as a player, continue to develop my game, continue to not get, you know, because sometimes I may find myself being lazy, you know, because I feel like I got it, you know, made, and God, he may snap in my ear and be like, come on, get up, you got to go do this. And I'm like, man, I got to get up, and, you know, I just got to find that will, that better will to continue to work and continue to put in the grind every day, because, you know, there's somebody out there just like me, you know, somebody out there who worships God every day, somebody out there who keeps God in their life, somebody out there who has the same calling, you know, somebody who is just as good as me, you know. So I have to keep on working, keep on grinding, you know. And another thing is my mental. I have to keep my mental on straight, because sometimes I find myself being more emotional than I should be. I find myself like being very passionate about certain stuff, and it kind of, you know, it kind of like perceives me in a way that that's not the person that I am, you know. Like I have to control my emotions better on the field. Like if a bad play happens, like I have to understand, like, boom, next play, you know. But it's just like small things like that, just have to perfect the small things, because the bigger things are taking care of themselves, God's taking care of the bigger things. So I just have to keep the small things, that may prepare me for life when I go to college or outside of college, and just keeping the outside noise down.
Yeah.
I may be I'm perceived as this person like that's good at all of this stuff, and people, you're gonna have haters, you're gonna have people who talk down on you every day, and I just have to find myself like not respond, even if I don't respond to them, like say on the internet or something, like in my head, like man, he not, this, like I find myself like responding to those comments, and I just have to like just knock them out of the way and just laugh it off, because sometimes like they do get to me, but that's just the devil trying to be in my life. That's the devil trying to knock me off my path, and that's not something that I need. Like sometimes I do find it like me just laying in my bed at night, like it may be a comment I've seen on Instagram, like just a heckler or something, and I'd be like, man, is that true?
Yeah.
Like but that's just the devil just trying to knock me off my path. Yeah.
Now I want to ask you so about your senior year. I was thinking about it. So what does a successful senior year look like for you? I guess so. Like this, if you think about this time next year, you'll be complete. What does a successful senior year look like for you on and off the field?
Well, on the field, obviously I want to be a 1,000-yard receiver. It's been a while since one came out of Vanguard, so I want to, put it on the pedestal, be a 1,000-yard receiver. I want to be a better teammate. Sometimes I find myself like in that leadership role, like I may be more aggressive than I should be. I may be, things like that. So I just want to be a better teammate to my team, be more coachable, those things, like just the small things, I just want to perfect the small things as they may prepare me for different opportunities in life. It may prevent, certain things from happening in life. So, I just got to perfect the small things, Also, just keeping that same work ethic, staying on my grind each and every day, no matter who's looking. I find myself sometimes like, man, like, do I really want to get up? Do I really want to do this? And it's just like, it's hard, it's hard. It's hard getting up and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't want to get up and do this, and I just have to fight through it, be a better person when it comes to that. Off the field, I feel like I should, like, I have to lift God up to the highest that he can be lifted up to. Sometimes like I may be tired one day and it's like, man, like somebody may come and ask me to pray for them. I'm like, man, I don't really feel like it, but I'll do it. I don't feel like doing this, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I gotta be more open to doing those things. I gotta be more open to, being the person that I was called to be, because this is who I am.
Yeah.
That's who I am. I'm the person when you're going through something, do you need me to pray for you? Like, do you need me to talk in front of these people? Do you need me, like Monday, we have this thing called Monday Muscle at Vanguard. Do you need me to come up here and talk for Monday Muscle, I'm one of those type of people. And, some days, like, I may be tired, but I have to live through my calling more, Yeah. That's really it.
Yeah. Now that's fine. Now, even what you're saying, bro, yeah, you mentioned it earlier when it comes to the mental, you always got to have a way to make sure you're straight, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned your mental, so I'm gonna give you these two things that we do. We do this here with Cut Different. One of it, I say for 10 minutes, like 10 minutes every day, you should need to just find silence, like being able to be silent and think your own thoughts, right? Find a space to where you literally let your mind go, wherever it go. But what you're doing, and we call it, excuse me, what we call it is self-discovery, right? You're searching yourself, right? Through that, obviously, you give time for God to enter, and you're going to be able to just think these ideas and come up with solutions for some problems that you may be having. So always 10 minutes of silence every day. Another one is journaling, right? Every day, try to journal, right? Just journal at the end of the day. I say at the end of the day, just your thoughts, like what's going on, what happened, and even like the emotions that you're having, that you're experiencing. That's the only way that you can ever really like start thinking about, like, why am I feeling this way? Ask yourself that. Why am I not feeling this way? Write about it. You know what I mean? Why do I react like this when I get and write about it, right? But what you're doing, you're giving yourself time to search yourself. And search your soul, man. And through that silent time and through doing that self-discovery work, that's when you'll be able to get the answers to what you're talking about, right? So those two practices alone, even in the mental, because you're going to exert a lot, right? especially presenting yourself in this manner. Now you have people that come to you because they see this. Now they want you to pray for them. Now they want you to give them a word. Now you have to be able to do your job, but also be able to point to someone else, right?
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of responsibility, all right? So it's like, it's the saying of like, who pours into the cup of somebody that's always pouring into the cup of somebody else, right? If you keep pouring and you're not putting something into yourself, right? When you come to the Bible and all the self-discovery work is right in there, all right? Get into that Bible, but also go do the work for yourself to understand who am I? Again, the same thing I said in the beginning. Now, who am I and where am I going? You know, definitely make sure you tapping into that for sure.
And like to tap back on like with the journaling thing, like my form of journaling is just like, because like in my room I have a big prayer board, and I encourage everybody to go make a prayer board.
Right.
I have a huge prayer board and I have like different sections on it. Me, sports, you know, family, relationship, friends, you know, and like every morning I wake up, I'll, you know, do my push-ups, do my sit-ups, and I'll wake up and I'll write on a piece of paper and like write a prayer, or like even some days, like if I'm not even feeling, like I'll just scribble on the paper, but God knows what it is. You know, he knows how I'm feeling or what I need to get off my chest. Like, you know, I may even cry tears on the paper, you know, but God knows what that means, you know. He knows that is coming from my heart. And like, it really puts me in a better place to say, boom, I can go get this day done, because God, you know, he understands me now. He knows what I'm feeling, regardless of if I wrote on this piece of paper or not. You know, as long as I give my time to him before I give my time to anybody else, you know, he knows how I'm feeling, you know, and that's my form of journaling. And like, shoot, I may even sit and write poems, write different things, you know, but they all go on that prayer board. They all go in there because it's a form of me talking to him. It's my form of communication through, you know, to God. So,
I love you, bro. If football ended today, or when football is over, right? When football is over, and it's all said and done, who do you want people to say James Bethea was?
I want him to say that he was a great person. You know, he was a follower of Christ. He was a leader. You know, he was a great teammate, great person. You know, I mean, obviously everybody wants to be a great person. Everybody wants to be that leader. But at the end of the day, I just want to be known as a kind, respectful person. You know, that's what my family brought me up to be. That's who I brought myself up to be, you know, a confident person. You know, I want to be known as, you know, the great guy, you know, as everybody wants to be.
Yeah. One crazy thing about life, man, I was a student athlete, and that's all I seen. You know, I was an athlete. I wanted to go to the NFL. And again, life started like that, right? A lot of started happening, and that didn't work out. I didn't have a college career I thought I would. When football was over, there was a long period of my time where I was trying to figure out who I was, and I kept bumping my head. Then I asked God, I said, God, direct my paths. And then one of my closest friends, he said, cut different to me. He was like, you're cut different. He said it in a different way, but that's what he said to me. And that's where the name of Cut Different came. We didn't know, me and my older brother started Cut Different, and now we impacting lives, right? We in and out of schools, mentoring, we opening schools. But this is nothing I ever thought I would do, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't on my bucket list. I never said I wanted to be this. I want to be the CEO of Cut Different. I want to open schools. I never thought that, right? This is literally God, like, grabbing a hold of me and said, this is why I put you on earth. So now that you're sitting and you're still young, how do you see yourself impacting the world?
I feel like, you know, obviously through God, you know, making sure I can save as many lives as possible, you know, while even saving myself, you know. Also, with the platform that I have now, you know, is obviously going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to get better. So just remaining humble and knowing my reason why I'm here, you know, because some people obviously can get caught up in the wrong things, you know, get caught up in, I'm the man, you know, just getting that macho man, you know, vibes, and just, that's not me. I got to realize that that's not me, and, you know, just continuing to be the person that I am and impacting lives, and like showing what I do on a day-to-day basis, showing my behind the scenes, showing the good and the bad, so that people know that I'm not just, you know, some perfect human being that's walking around. I'm just like you, you know, but I'm going to continue to motivate you to work. I'm going to continue to motivate you to get up and get in your word. You know, you got somebody that's here, regardless of if I meet you in person or not, you got somebody that's here to, you know, uplift you and to care for you. You know, sometimes, like, it'll even be friends, like, that'll come to me, like, we don't really talk, like, on a day-to-day basis, and, like, they'll just come out of nowhere and be like, man, I need you to pray for me. You know, I need you to do this for me. You know, they may not be comfortable asking me in person, but, you know, they'll text me and be like, man, I need you to pray for me. You know, I'm going through a really tough time in my life, and that makes me feel good as a person, you know.
Do you understand the weight of having influence?
Yeah, I do.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it comes with a lot. And when what I hear you saying and what I see, bro, that's influence. And you said that you referred to it, but you're at the infant stages of where your influence is going, right? And you have to always be aware of what your influence is. There was a rap, I think it was Lil Boosie. He said, "I'm not a role model. I'm not a role model. I got a smile and I ain't got it," something like that. But you may not sign up, and Charles Barkley said that too. I think something about being a role model, basically like they didn't sign up to be a role model. But when you have influence, you are a role model, right?
Yeah.
Because there's people you don't get to choose, right?
Yeah.
It's gifted to you. You got this gift, and you have to be careful with that. And I bring it up, say to you, bro, always be careful when you're doing that, but continue to be that, right? Because there's little kids that's looking up to you, right?
Yeah.
There's little kids in Ocala, Florida that wish, that hoping and praying that they can get a scholarship and go to Indiana University or whatever, or the University have. They said U of I have. They said, but wherever they want to go and be that, and you have that, man. So you always got to be careful with the influence you got. You feel me?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I always understand. But I do want to ask you this. So there's a younger kid, right? He's watching this, and I just said that he wants to be where you are. What do you want him to understand?
So when it comes to a question like that, really just be you, you know. As long as you continue to stay in your words, stay positive, stay, you know, grounded to your family, love your family, love who loves you. Because even with your family, like it may be people who may not love you, who may not want to see you win, but you know, you got to love who loves you. Because if you continue to try to pour into other people, if you continue to try to pour into somebody that's not pouring into you, you know, you may find yourself getting lost into it. You know, you may find yourself losing your own self. You know, you got to pour into yourself first. You got to find that self-respect first and find that inside of you and know who you are as a person before you go and pour into other people. And also just stay in your word, man. You know, find God at a young age, find Jesus at a young age, know who they are. Don't just say, oh, I'm a Christian, and I know who God is, and then you don't read your Bible every day, or you don't wake up and thank him for waking you up another day, or, you know, putting him first over your own cons or over your own understandings, you know. So you just really got to put him first, you know, allow him to lead your life, allow the great role models to lead your life, allow the people who care for you and love you, that you know who love you, to lead your life. You know, don't try to lead obviously you got to be your own person, but, you know, don't try to lead like on your own understandings all the time, you know. Sometimes you got to open up and have your ears open and know who's right for you, you know. Because that was one thing that was hard for me, like coming into high school, like I was like, man, I'm just a man, you know. I don't want to listen to whoever got something to say to me, like even like I never knew I would be like the person I was today, like, and it was just like a switch that clicked, and it was like God knew who I was, you know. And you just gotta it's really just not leaning on your own understandings, you know, all the time. Like sometimes you just gotta, you know, lean on the people who care for you, you know. And that's, sometimes it may be hard doing that because you feel like, you know, you got it all made, you got your life together, you know. Even when it gets hard, you feel like you got to do this, you got to do that, but it may be this person who, you know, got it all made. You may think he's just, you know, talking down on you or something, but he's genuinely just want to see you win. Yeah. You know, you just got to open your ears and listen and be aware of the people that's around you, you know.
Keep it a buck.
Yeah.
Keep it a buck.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to take a day off and just be a YN for one day? Just for one day, bro. Like, you just go get a pistol or just take a fly picture and spread your money like and do this. You know what I mean? You don't ever think of just one day.
Nah, I mean, obviously, you know, I see it all over Instagram and stuff. You know, I'm a young kid, so it's just like, man, sometimes I wonder how it feels to do those type of things, but, you know, that's just not me. No matter if I even tried to do it, like, God wouldn't let me. Like, my own heart wouldn't feel okay with doing something like that. So I just, I resort from even seeing anything like that on my feed. Like I unfollow a lot of people or like things that may be on my page, like that's like that. Like I don't even, Well, like, even if it's people that's close to me, like that's like that. Like I I just distance myself away from anything like that, because I know that's not me. That's the type, I am who I am, for a reason. So, that's just fine.
That's fine. One thing I would want to do, man, we're going to close all these podcasts as we close it. EL2A Podcast, exposure leads to access. So exposure, we believe once you get exposed, something leads you to figure out how to gain access to it. So, for example, like I said, through my travel, I was exposed that the world was bigger than where I come from. So exposure is key. I feel exposure is the missing key to success, right? You know more, you do more. You know what I mean? You know better, you do better. And I want to ask you, what has exposure done for you in your life?
It's allowed me to put God on the highest pedestal that he can be on. It's allowed me to build my brand, build me as a person. It's allowed different doors to be open for me as of sports, off-field work, different trainings, different schooling opportunities, different things like that, offers, That's what exposure has done for me.
Yeah, exposure is key. Yeah. Man, that's it, bro. Man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you for joining us again. Like I say, it's all you. You can see the God. I see you been in the pulpit, right? I can see that in your future. I can see you, Grace, being in the pulpit somewhere, and doing God's work as you're doing today, man. So until you get into that pulpit, keep being a preacher on these streets, man, and making sure that these young kids who follow you and the young people who follow you, that they know who God is, man. So keep being yourself. Proud of you, man. I look forward to seeing you senior year. And man, so just keep going up, man. So I need y'all to do this right now. Stop what you're doing. Like, subscribe, and comment. Again, another powerful episode. I need you to drop in the comment right now. Give me one thing that touched you, that he said that it touched you, and just put it in the comment, man. And make sure you share this with 3 people, right? Share this episode with 3 people to make sure they can hear this young man. And if you're a parent out there, make sure your kids, right? Make sure your kids are tapping in with this episode. I think it's truly powerful for our youth to be able to hear messages like this coming from someone that's their age, right? So it's powerful for our youth to hear somebody talking like this at their age. So make sure our parents that watch this, make sure you're sharing it with your kids. And other than that, man, EL2A Podcast, we're going to keep these episodes coming. Cut Different Academy. Make sure you invest in the future. It's going to change the world. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Don't leave here without doing that. All right, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. And other than that, man, I always leave it to our guests, right? So I let God, you got a lot of God in you, right? So I always tell our guests to let God use you, right? But if you think about the person that may be watching this podcast, it may be something that you could say that helps that person, right? It may be something that you could say that encourages that person, right? So I'm going to let you end the podcast and say whatever you feel needs to be said to the people. You end it in your way, and just talk to the people.
Really, just know who you are, Before you make a decision on anything big in your life, before you lean on any understanding, know who you are as a person. Know what you need and know what you want in your life, And the best way to do that is through Jesus Christ and God himself. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but together we can make this world a better place if we lean on our learnings, we lean on our lessons, and lean on our understandings from Jesus himself. So, the word is the best thing, any depression, any sadness, any lust, because we're young. We're gonna go through those lustful thoughts. We're gonna go through those lustful times, and things, may look big to you, the women, the men, for young women, the men may look, good to you, but you gotta lean on what you really want in life, and the best way to do that is through your word and through your teachers, So the best piece is through the Bible. Always remember that. The best piece is through your learners, the best piece is through your teachers and your support system. Know who you have around you. Have great discernment. That means knowing what is right or wrong, knowing what is right or wrong when nobody's looking. Always do the right thing. That's all I have for you.
Yeah, man. That boy gonna be the pulpit, man. That's fire, man. Hey, we'll see y'all next time.